Before I start, I want to make a few things clear. This is election year, hardly 30 days to the election, and it's also involves two states that are Republican. There could be some bias against helping Republican states or Republican run state, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans, right? Doesn't our government work for all of us? I may not want to vote for Biden because he's a Democrat, but I would fall in line and I would still call him president. He is President Biden after all. So, what is really going on? The way the national debt is being run up, it is just horrifying how much money has been wasted. And also, there are serious allegations of misdirection of funding to the FEMA. How truthful are these allegations? We're going to take an unbiased look at that also. So, first, please like this video, and I would like to now show you a slide deck. Very short one, but it's got a lot of information packed in it. Here we go. Are FEMA funds misdirected? Well, a Homeland Security report claims high-risk migrants, this is the Homeland Security Department report, were allowed into the US without proper identification at the border. In many cases, migrants provided their own personal details and are now allowed to fly domestically without ID. Can you believe this, guys? We used to require 4 forms of identification after 9/11. The report criticizes TSA and immigration authorities for failing to properly vet and screen migrants, posing potential security risks. You know, if 1,000 people or 10,000 are coming every day at the border and you are not giving them any guidelines, how are you going to stop that? You need to go to Xander's Gap. Look at how crowded it has become today. Everybody is trying to get in before elections. They are all convinced that Trump is coming back. It doesn't matter. The point is, you need to, that is, the Department of Homeland Security and the Biden administration needs to set its house in order. This is just nonsense. 4 years of unbridled illegal immigration. How much wastage there is going on? Who's paying all that money? You are printing the money, but it's going to be taxed at the taxpayer's door. The report warns that the current vetting processes do not prevent high-risk individuals from entering the country or boarding flights. Some stunning numbers have been given. The details emerged one day after the DHS warned that the threat environment in US will remain high in the coming year, with migrants with terrorism ties contributing to the elevated level. Immigration agents were observed processing 53 migrants in Nogales, San Isidro, Yuma. These are all border checkposts. Chula Vista is near San Diego, and Imperial Beach in April 2023. Agents reviewed docs, collected DNA samples, conducted interviews, and entered biographical data into a database. 7 migrants, or 13% of the group, had no identification, raising concerns about proper vetting. The report found that immigration databases may be incomplete, as officers are not required to dox if non-citizens presented identification. They are not required, which means that you are just letting somebody loose without even knowing his name. How is the Trump administration going to catch them? Forget about sending them back to their home country. How are you going to catch them? CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, and immigrations cannot determine how many migrants enter the US without ID or rely on self-reported information. TSA depends on CBP ICE for background checks at airports. The report recommends CBP perform a comprehensive risk analysis before allowing migrants into the country or into ICE custody. Migrants have many other risks. The report recommends TSA strengthen its procedures to mitigate risk. DHS states that the border agents thoroughly question migrants seeking entry into the US. But where? Where is it happening? Migrants without proper identification or entry are deemed inadmissible by CBP and may face removal proceedings. See, there are people being turned away, no doubt, but there are also people being allowed in. In fact, there are now sophisticated ways in which they are finding out where the patrol agents are active along the borders, and then they find areas that have just been abandoned by them, and they go through sneak using wire cutters and things like that, and they get in. This is a joke. This really is a joke. DHS admits it's understaffed. Yeah, because you needlessly started allowing all these things. The agency states it would need more resources to detain all non-citizens without ID encountered at the border. Undocumented immigrants are a criminal threat to the society. The risk is very, very high. So this is just the situation of undocumented immigrants, illegals, and the scum of the dregs of every society is actually finding its way into the United States. You are having criminals, killers, thugs, murderers, drug addicts, all these people are coming in now. FEMA addressed accusations that disaster relief funds were diverted to migrants, labeling them false. FEMA says no, nothing of that sort has happened. But look at what the Republicans are saying, including Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Donald Trump Jr. criticized the $640 million FEMA spent on migrant assistance. What does that mean? So this is where the thing is open to interpretation. FEMA says we spent $640 million on migrant assistance. And they are saying, why are you bothered about migrants? Your thing is for federal emergency management, not to worry about illegal migrants. Abbott urged FEMA to redirect funds from migrant resettlement to hurricane relief, while Trump Jr. claimed nearly $1 billion had been spent on migrants over 2 years. So this is the thing. We are going to give you some links. You read and ascertain for yourself whether Donald Trump Jr.'s statement that $1 billion has been redirected to undocumented migrants is true or not. Dan Crenshaw accused FEMA of redirecting funds to migrant services under the Shelter and Services Program, but DHS has refuted it. That is the Department of Homeland Security. DHS clarified the SSP is a separate grant program unrelated to FEMA's disaster fund and is congressionally appropriated. FEMA assured the public that sufficient funds are available for immediate disaster response and recovery after Hurricane Helene. But the ground situation from North Carolina, from Tennessee, East Tennessee, is that the FEMA is nowhere to be seen. We are seeing so many instances of people putting out videos. For example, there was this one helicopter pilot. He owns a helicopter. He wanted to take some supplies to some remote hilly areas in North Carolina. And he has done this in the past. So he takes all these commodities and lands a helicopter there, and he's promptly arrested by the government. Says he has no mandate to do this thing. But is the government helping? No. I mean, he has put out some long posts and a video, the link of which I'm going to put also, and you can see for yourself. These are common people like you and me, well-meaning people who want to help a fellow American, and the government goes and arrests them. And this kind of an erratic behavior we have seen in other things also. Like, for example, 2 store workers reporting about the theft at their store and them chasing the miscreants away, and then the store actually fired them. They said the user manual doesn't ask you to defend yourself. Even this is all nonsense. The ludicrousness, the ridiculousness of this has become so big now. I mean, I don't know which country I am living in. There are rules, there are laws, and people obey them. That's what made this country great. That's why many people migrate to this country legally. But what we are seeing is a cruel joke, because one party, bunch of incompetent nincompoops, think that they can somehow keep getting elected, that the other side gerrymandered, as these guys didn't, and therefore they are going to resettle all these illegals into those states that don't vote for them and then convert those into their own. Why have a democracy then? This is a mockery of democracy. FEMA clarified that it does not ask for or accept cash donations or volunteers for disaster response efforts. Claims that FEMA is requesting donations are likely scams, the agency warned. So this is like, don't bring food, don't take any help. But then you should be able to go and help. If you are not there and if somebody is offering to help, what is wrong in that? FEMA debunked rumors about turning away donations, stopping vehicles, or confiscating supplies post-disaster. And donations of food, water, and goods are managed by voluntary organizations, not FEMA directly. Yes, I know that. My son and my daughter, they've all volunteered at all these people, where you have disaster kits that you take from donations from packed foods. You put them all together, you box them, and then start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50 boxes, 100 boxes at a time, and then they ship them out to places where they are needed. There is no evidence that disaster relief funds were used on immigrants in the US illegally. Trump and his allies appear to be conflating two different funds? Is that what it is? A simple matter of taking some words and saying that FEMA's money is being directed towards illegal immigrants? Whatever it is, guys, what is happening is just disastrous for the country. There's no way this country can take in so many illegals. Some people say up to 15 million and not suffer in the long run. And today there is a joke of a jobs report because the jobs are not counting 40-hour jobs. Somebody is doing 2-3 jobs. Each one is counted as an individual job. And then say that the unemployment is at an all-time low. No, that's bullshit. It's not true. And here is what is the proof. United States is heading for a bankruptcy. How much money is owed right now? What is the US national debt? It is 35.669 trillion. In addition to the debt increase, the US Treasury drew down its cash balance by 72 billion, leading to a total deficit of over 275 billion in one day. That is the 72 billion, and first day of the new fiscal year, 204 billion were drawn. So the sharp rise in debt has triggered widespread alarm, with many fearing that the country is headed for bankruptcy. What happens if US declares bankruptcy? Well, all debts owed will be written off. Okay, so there are many countries, including India, that have US Treasury bills. All those things will be gone. Bye, tata. But that's only like 3 trillion, 4 trillion maximum. What about the remaining? What about the 30? Much of the money is US owing it to its own people, its own organizations that have given them or bought the treasury bills. What are you going to tell them? Say that we don't pay you anymore? Is that what they're going to say? The sharp rise in debt has triggered widespread alarm, and Tesla CEO Elon Musk highlighted the concerns by posting on X saying America is headed for bankruptcy. See the national debt, guys. In 2016, it was 20 trillion. Now it is at 35 trillion. It's a matter of 8 years. You've really gone through the roof, literally. And we thought that because of COVID, some of this was necessary. I don't deny that. But after COVID, just look at the steepness of that curve. It has not stopped. Why? Because these, 8-letter word, think that by bringing in illegals, they can make America prosperous again. They can revive the industrial jobs and so on and so forth. This is all BS. If America wants to do it, you just need to give them the proper tax credits, and they would have done it with the existing population itself. These are all BSs. It was a democratic plan to somehow keep winning every election. That's what I see it as. Key factors for the debt surge. In the first 10 months of this fiscal year, because we are now in October, right? The interest payments have gone up to 956 billion, or a 32% increase from 2023, from the previous year, and are projected to exceed 1 trillion for the full fiscal year due to rising interest rates. 1 trillion in interest per year. So in 2024, that 35, whatever else they'll print, that will add up, plus an additional 1 trillion unpaid interest. The budget deficit. The US budget deficit as of July 2024 was 1.52 trillion. This is for this fiscal year, slightly lower than the previous year, but significantly higher than pre-pandemic levels. That's why I said that COVID was a necessity, that you had to print money. But then they have not stopped. See, this is where I'm getting really, really mad. I keep hearing stories about how illegals, without checking for ID, without anything, once they enter the United States, they are given $2,000 for spending money. And I'm hearing that some of them spend that money, go back out of US, come back in again, take another 2,000, round tripping again and again and again and again. The rising debt of US as a country has now reached about 35 trillion, and this is mostly because of high spending and lower tax revenues. The economic impact of this is that global uncertainties, now you've got yourself embroiled in 2-3 wars, and each one of them is also sucking up a lot of money, because it's the United States, it is the US taxpayer who is underwriting these 2 wars, Israel versus the Middle East, Iran insurgency groups, as well as Ukraine versus Russia. All that stuff is being underwritten by taxpayer. Did you guys ask me for my permission? No. Did you guys ask any US citizen for permission? Not the congressmen and women. They of course know what they are doing. Plus they are probably also lining up their pockets. Did anyone ask any US citizen if it was okay to support these two wars? And with what? No end in sight. What are the goals? Why could the US not have included Ukraine into NATO when Russia had amassed all their troops at the border? Would that have stopped things? Maybe. Or why did the US break its promise, even though it was verbal, that after the first set of few countries, no other Eastern Bloc countries would be included into the NATO? I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying what US did is right or wrong, or what Russia is doing today is right or wrong. At the end of the day, some people are suffering and others are suffering even more. The implications for the fiscal policy are just tremendous. The interest rate are going up. Now they are cut down by 0.5%. Again, because of the new jobs report, the Federal Reserve has said, no, we are not going to cut again. So before the elections, I don't see another rate cut coming. So we are going to be like parked here, and that will have to play itself out. It takes a few months before it plays out, and we don't know what's going to happen after that. Lawmakers may need to adjust tax policies or spending priorities to respond to fiscal pressures. See, rate cut is a monetary policy because it is the percentage of interest that the Federal Reserve charges to banks who will be borrowing from the Fed to fund loans for its customers. Okay, so that is just the monetary policy. The fiscal policy is what the policies the government of the day implements, such as cutting taxes for businesses or giving incentives or doing something that would raise the productivity, raise profits, and make overall the country more prosperous. So the fiscal part of this has still not come in because the US is not even looking at reining in its expenditure. It is just growing unbridled. It is just adding people. In fact, I'm beginning to see a lot of undocumented people walking about, even in cities like San Jose, where there is a lot of, it's a good 400, 500 miles north of the border. What are they here? Because what happens is there are no jobs in Silicon Valley for untrained people. What's going to happen? Well, crime will rise. Then what was the intent? Why could they have not trained these people in the respective countries where the costs could have been kept low, and then they would have been given a guarantee that if you come to US, here is the ticket for you to fly to US, you will be absorbed, and they could have been interviewed in their country, and then they could have gone to the state and city where they had to get a work permit. Why could this not have been handled in a more organized manner? Nobody will answer this question. Well, first of all, we have to assume that they have the brains to answer this question. Sorry to be flippant here, but you see the illogicity of this. Any question you ask Kamala Harris, and she says, I'm from a middle class background. And her father's side, all the stories are now turning out to be untrue. It's just one blogger, putting out all these facts. So how does one trust somebody who is lying through her teeth? So this is where the United States stands, and the problem is this is it's going down a slope, and you can't apply brakes, because if you apply brakes, and that too if you brake hard, the apple cart is going to overturn, and that's going to be a bigger disaster. I don't see much respite even if a Trump administration takes place. The only difference will be that this illegal immigration will probably be stopped, but as to whether the existing illegals will be thrown out, I have my own doubts. The best the Trump administration can do is to take them to the border and then tell them, you are not wanted, you go back to wherever you came from, you are not my problem anymore, and then let's see what the Mexican government does with it. Because right now they were just keeping quiet, but if US takes a stand and saying that we are going to throw these guys out, you came in from here, you go back from out of here, you're not my problem anymore. Let's see what the Mexican government does. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.